When it comes to managing rental property, more options are never a bad thing. The more tools you have, such as different vendors for repair jobs or levels of insurance protection, the better you can manage your properties. Other important tools include month-to-month leases, which is less common but increasingly popular type of lease that is useful in a variety of situations. If you own rental property but have never used a month-to-month lease and you're wondering if it's the right move for you, this video will help. Month-to-month leases, pros and cons, plus a free lease template. Hi, I'm Santiago Marino with DoorLoop. Let me just quickly remind you that I am not an attorney and I cannot give you any legal advice, financial advice, or any kind of advice, except to remind you to make sure that you like this video, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to our channel. Let's get started. What is a month-to-month lease? A month-to-month lease is a short-term lease agreement. It is, as it sounds, effective on a month-by-month basis. That's notable because it gives the landlord the ability to cancel the contract at any time. It is important to mention, however, that a month-to-month lease agreement still requires a 30-day notice or a 60-day notice if the tenant has been with you for more than 1 year in most states. Why would you want a month-to-month lease? If you're looking into month-to-month leases, chances are you already have an idea of why you'd use one. But in case you aren't very clear on the benefits, here's a quick summary. Month-to-month leases offer greater flexibility. With a month-to-month lease, you can rent out the property for a shorter period of time. For example, when you're considering a major change or move that would keep you from wanting to sign a tenant to a new 1-year lease, but you also want to continue collecting rent payments, that's when a month-to-month lease would work. Or when a tenant's lease ends and they need additional time to get their new living situation set up. For instance, maybe they are buying a house, they're purchasing a home, so having a month-to-month will give them enough time to finish the process. Month-to-month leases make it easier to raise rent prices. With a month-to-month lease, you're not locked into a year-long lease with a tenant at the same rent price. And while it may be difficult to retain tenants after raising rent pricing, a month-to-month lease makes it easy to bring in new tenants at higher rates. End the lease at any time, with proper notification. Is your new tenant a real pain? No problem. With a month-to-month lease, you can send the tenant a 30-day notice and be done with the lease. Just like that. No need to have to deal with a difficult tenant for a full 12 months. Also, some tenants might simply prefer the flexibility of a month-to-month lease, especially if they see themselves traveling soon and just need somewhere to stay temporarily. Being able to offer a current or prospective tenant a month-to-month lease allows you to offer another kind of agreement that might be more conducive to their situation. That being said, while a month-to-month lease does offer less dependable rental income, it can be preferable in many situations. At the very least, it offers you added flexibility and another tool in your tool belt. Tips for using month-to-month leases. If you think that you'd like to offer month-to-month leases, we've put together a quick list of tips to help you make the most out of this flexible lease type. You don't necessarily need paperwork for a month-to-month agreement. In many states, all that's needed to enter an official month-to-month lease agreement is for the tenant's current lease to expire for them to continue paying rent each month. On the other hand, in many states, a verbal agreement is enough to enter into a month-to-month lease. Month-to-month leases can be ended with a simple 30 or 60-day notice. A month-to-month lease is very easy to end. You just need to issue the tenant due notice. However, it's important to keep in mind that if the tenant has been living in the property for more than 1 year, they must be given a full 60-day notice. You may be required to deliver notice in hard copy form. Depending on what state your property resides in, you may be required to hand deliver or send a notice letter by physical mail. States such as California don't allow you to simply verbally communicate the notice or send it via digital communications. You must give proper notice before increasing rent. Similar to offering notice when requesting the tenant to move, with a month-to-month lease, you also need to give the tenant proper notification before raising rent or any other major changes to the lease. How much notice you should give when raising rent all depends on what state you are in, but it's typically between 30 to 90 days. How does a 30-day notice work on a month-to-month lease? We mentioned this earlier, but it's important to state this again because it is a big part of how month-to-month leases work. With a month-to-month agreement, 30-day notice must be given before you're allowed to end the lease agreement for any reason. It also applies if you desire to make changes to the lease agreement, including raising rent pricing. Also, remember that in some states, more notice is required for tenants who have lived on the property longer. For example, in California, a 60-day notice is required by physical letter if the tenant has lived on the property for more than 1 year. Also, to help you get started, we curated a comprehensive month-to-month lease agreement resource that covers every state. There's a link in the description right there, okay? So you just find your own state from the list and click on it to find relevant download buttons to download a copy of a month-to-month lease agreement. Okay, so that being said, we hope that this video has equipped you with everything you need to easily get started with a month-to-month lease. As you may be familiar, DoorLoop's complete property management software makes everything simpler. It gives you the peace of mind that you can manage your properties from anywhere with ease, while helping you streamline every aspect of your property business, including collecting rent, accounting, maintenance, tenant communications, leasing and screening, listing and marketing, and much more. So check out what DoorLoop can do for you and begin streamlining your property management efforts today. And don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, your colleagues, and subscribe to our channel. Because here is where you can find a lot of videos on content such as what is a guarantor on a lease and why do landlords prefer one. We also have a video on the top 10 most important landlord-tenant laws to always remember, and much more. So make sure you check that out. And as always, happy renting.